Hello, everybody. Today's review is going to be of Avatar Fire and Ash, which unfortunately fell a little bit like a rinse and repeat kind of deal for me, which is unfortunate because the first two, I feel like they were just so far apart that, again, um, it felt fresh. Like the first one was in 2009, and then the second movie didn't come out until 2022. So it felt like a fresh idea, and I felt like the storyline was still there. But this time, it felt like they kind of copied a little bit too much of the second movie into the third movie, and it kind of felt like the same story in a sense. They were just adding new characters. So I guess before we get into anything else, we'll go over the cast list because I actually, not gonna lie, recorded a review for this already and definitely fumbled one of the most important characters' names. So I decided I'm going to try again. So we had Sam Worthington as Jake, Zoe Saldana as Natiri, which is the one that I didn't say right. Sigourney Weaver as Kiri, Stephen Lang as Quaritch, Una Chaplin, who was one of the new characters of the Mangquan clan or Ash people. She was their leader. Varang, Kate Winslet as Ronal. She was part of the Water people from the second movie. Cliff Curtis as Tana Tanawi. Tanawi, I want to say is how you pronounce that. Oh my god, it's sometimes these names are really hard to pronounce. He was also part of the Water people as well. And we had some returning people from the very first movie. Joel David Moore as Norm, and then CCH Pounder was Moat, who was Natiri's mother. Eddie Falco as General Ardmore, who was, I guess, a step above, obviously, Quaritch. So she was like his boss. Now, obviously, you could sense the tension between them throughout the movie very, very much, especially when Quaritch started to go off and kind of do like his own thing. We had Brendan Cowell as Scoresby, or Scoresby, I guess is how you pronounce that. And he was the guy who was hunting down the Tolkun. And I can't remember exactly what he was trying to extract from them. Now, they explain that a lot more in the second movie, obviously, than in this one. But he is just there for the money. Like, he wants to wipe out the Tolkun and take whatever he can from them, just to make his payday, right? Then we had Jermaine Clement as Dr. Garvin, and he was the marine biologist who actually ends up saving Jake at one point in the movie. So this movie did have its like humorous moments for sure. Then we had Giovanni Ribisi as Selfbridge, who was from the first movie at the very end. In the extended version of the very first one, he does say that he's going to come back for the Na'vi people, and I guess this was kind of like him returning to prove his point, in a sense. And then we had David Thules as Dayak, who was the air trader. Bertane Dalton as Loak, Jake Champion as Spider, Trinity Joel Bliss as Tuck, and then Bailey Bass as Taziri. I believe is how you pronounce that name anyway. So yeah, there were a few new creatures in this movie, as well as I guess some old ones that I didn't spot. But we had the Night Wraith, which is the creature that most of the Na'vi people ride through the air. And then we had the Medusoids and the Wind Rays, which were part of the airship carriers. So they were probably two of the coolest creatures in the movie entirely. So the Wind Rays were kind of like a stingray, but in the air. So that was kind of cool to see. And then the Medusoids were like these, almost like a squid type character filled with like air, like hot air to make the airships float. So yeah, very cool creature design in this movie for sure. We had the Banshees, Viper Wolves, and the Thanator, but I don't remember ever spotting them in this movie. So I don't know exactly where they were, but I looked it up and it said that they were in this movie somewhere. And then we had the Tazong. which was the little creature, the squid-like creature that was in the water with the long tentacles and the pincer-like mouth, which ends up being the saving grace for Jake Sully and his side in this movie at the end. So we first open with Loak flying with his brother. So I guess he can still like sense his presence and so on and so forth. Obviously, we know that his brother was shot at the end of the second movie, and we also know that Quaritch is still alive because Spider, who was his son, let him go. Now, obviously, Spider doesn't really believe that that's his father. He just believes that it's the whatever body they've created to put his memories into. But his father is still in there somewhere. And you can kind of see Quaritch's battle throughout the movie. Like, does he want to still fight with the humans, or does he want to become a full-time Na'vi? And I think it's hard for him because his son doesn't want to be obviously part of what the Na'vi call the Sky People, right? Like, he doesn't want to have anything to do with that. Spider wants to live with the Na'vi people, and obviously has a little bit more of a reason in this movie now, because Kiri, who was, I believe, if I remember correctly, she was the product of what happened when Sigourney Weaver's character died in the first movie, and her body was passed on to the Avatar. So she doesn't have a father, right? She was born, is it asexually? Is that how they say that? Like some creatures and some plants, so on and so forth, don't really follow, I guess, the natural reproduction. I know it happens in plants, right? But there's an actual term for it that I can't remember. I wish I could, but I can't. Right? I can't right now, so I'm sorry. But there is a term for it. I just can't remember what it's called. But yeah, eventually, obviously, Kiri does realize that was her. That she has no father. There was no like natural. It wasn't a natural birth. That wasn't how she was created. Now, obviously, Jake has taken on the role of her father, and Neytiri has taken on the role of her mother, and Took and the rest of the kids, obviously accepted her into the family no matter what, because Jake knew her as a human, so he was going to take her in as a Na'vi, right? It just made sense. And she has all that knowledge, right? And she's able to, really connect with the whole planet, basically. Like, she uses the planet as a weapon in certain points, and even has the power to help Spider breathe the air without needing a mask. So it really does show how powerful she actually is. I guess she's like really connected with Awe, or yeah, she's really connected with Awe. Even though every time she tries to connect with Awe, it seems like Awe pushes her away, and I don't know if maybe Awe is scared of the power that she has, but it is shown throughout the movie. Like at one point in time, when her and Varang have their little kind of like stare down thing, and Varang ends up just running away. Because Varang was connecting like Avatar to, or Na'vi to Na'vi, which I don't think we'd ever seen before this movie. And she had some sort of like weird voodoo power over them. I don't know. She had some sort of like tattoo on her hand that she was using to try to like extract the truth, or like what she wanted to know out of whatever Na'vi she connected to. It was weird. They didn't really explain that too much. And then at one point in time, when Quaritch goes into like the Ash people's land to bring them guns and so on and so forth to kind of recruit them as like his new army. Now their land design was absolutely cool. Like it reminded me of the Lion King, like the hyena pit sort of thing with all the bones and stuff. It also kind of reminded me, I guess, of like the one area of Kong Skull Island. Which is kind of a weird comparison, but it just kind of gave me like that sort of a vibe, like a mix between both of them. Like it was just like an absolute wasteland. And it just, yeah, the design for that was so cool. And oh my god, Varang was just an absolute like loose cannon. She wanted all the weapons. She wanted to work with the humans. It seemed like she wanted to kind of wipe out anybody that was in her way. It didn't really matter to her. She didn't obviously believe in the way of Awe, obviously. I guess at a very young age, most of her, I guess most of her clan was taken out, and nobody was there to help, right? So she believes that her gods abandoned her. So obviously she kind of, I guess, believes more in herself than a higher power, right? So I guess in a sense she's going to be a little unhinged on that planet because most of them believe that you know they have a set path for them, right? So Kiri has like her set path, and eventually she does connect a little bit with Awe, but as soon as that happens, the missile comes in and blows up the whole um I don't like life or like line that she was trying to connect through to. So yeah, it is unfortunate that we don't get to see a little bit more of that, but I feel like this was really kind of like Kiri's storyline was really ingrained in the second and third movie. And then we have Loak's storyline of him going after the Tulkun and bringing the Tulkun back to the Tulkun elders and having a whole conversation with them about, how um, the ones that were outcast were hurt because they decided to fight, and that's not what the elders wanted, so they were outcast. So then, of course, Loak says he's going to be an outcast, and then Tessiri says she's going to be an outcast, and I think at that point Spider had been captured, right? Or was that before? No, that was definitely after Spider had been captured. He gets captured, and like the symbiote thing that's living inside of him is keeping him alive, and he's keeping it alive. So I guess he's at a healthy point, right? And obviously, the Sky People or humans want to study him. So Quaritch brings him in. They try to extract whatever they can from him, and then eventually it gets to the point where um, Dr. Garvin helps them escape from the facility. And so I think at one point, yeah, Jake even says that, Neytiri was right, that there's no way they can protect uh, Spider, and he almost kills him. Like, comes pretty close, but I guess it just wasn't meant to be. Like, they guided his hand away from killing Spider, so he decides to obviously protect him. Now, again, we all know these movies are famous for it. They kind of lead up to this battle, and unfortunately, it kind of felt a little bit like the battle from the second movie. Like, we knew that, at least from the first movie to the second movie, we weren't really sure if Quaritch was going to be alive. Like, how are they going to bring him back, sort of thing. So it was cool to see that they had transported his memories into a Navi. I thought that was a cool idea. Like, him and his whole team basically were Navis in this movie. Um, and obviously, I think they were down to the last two of them, right? In this one, it was just him and the one other guy. So it was kind of interesting to see them work as a duo. And oh my god, I think it was a sharpshooter that was left alive, right? Like the sniper sort of thing. So he definitely had some power, and the camo that he used in like the wasteland was cool to see. Like, there was a lot of cool stuff that happened in this movie, but unfortunately, it just kind of felt like the same battle from the second one, where they were like losing a little bit, and then something comes along and saves them. Um, and I feel like it would have been a much better ending if Quaritch's side had just won this one, and Varang and him kind of get away, and then eventually it builds up to obviously Jake kind of having to really like rebuild and kind of build his own army to come back at the Sky People. Now, I will say I kind of sympathize with Quaritch a little bit more in this movie because I do feel like he is kind of torn again, if I haven't already said that. Like, he doesn't know whether he wants to be with the people, and he doesn't know whether he wants to be Navi. Now, if he wants to be Navi, he has the chance to be with his son, because again, his son wants nothing to do, Spider wants nothing to do with the human side. Um, But I think at this point he's kind of turned himself into such a villain that Natiri's never going to let him in with the Navi people, right? Like even the way she was acting throughout this movie kind of bugged me a little bit because you would think after being with Jake for so long that she would be past the whole, embarrassment thing. But she seemed to kind of want, in the beginning at least, she seemed to want Spider dead, like because he was a human. Um, she was embarrassed by her children because they weren't completely Navi like her. She was still embarrassed by Jake. It just seemed kind of like a poor plot point to even put in this movie because she's been with them for so long that why would she still be embarrassed by any of it, right? You would think she would be accepting and kind of like more um I guess more willing to look at Jake's side of things, I guess, in a sense. Now obviously the Navi people don't want the weapons, right? They believe that the guns are bad. Um but Jake has said, we're not going to be able to fight with bows and arrows and spears forever. Um, like their technology is just going to keep getting more advanced, so we have to fight back with something at least somewhat to meet them, right? Like we can't keep taking, the knife to the gunfight sort of thing because we're going to end up all dying if we do that. So yeah, again, Core just kind of struggling, like he doesn't know which side to pick, and I see that in him because he does care about his son, like he wants his son with him, but there's no way that if he continues with the general and so on and so forth, that Spider's going to want anything to do with him, and especially now, um, they're just going to want to study Spider the entire time and try to figure out what's inside of him that they can put into them to help them breathe on the planet, and if they figure that out, it's pretty much game over for the Navi people, I would say. Now, again, I do feel like the final battle, obviously the action sequences in this movie were top notch. Like the final battle is always the best part of these movies. But I do feel like they were trying to tell maybe one too many stories in this, and eventually just kind of felt like it was dragging a little bit. And then again, it's kind of the battle between Quaritch and Jake, no matter what. Even if you do add Varang and her people into it. Now, I will say, before I guess Quaritch even knew, about the Ash people, obviously, they had attacked the trade ships or the airship carriers for the trade, right? So I guess, in a sense, it was good. It was a good way to introduce them, right? But also, they should have been the main enemy then. It was still this battle between Quaritch and Jake. When it really came down to it, that's what it was all about. Now, I will say, they added obviously the Tulkun into it as well to have like that little battle between the Tulkun and Scoresby, and Scoresby got what he deserved at the end of that movie. The Tulkun finally took him out, so I was happy about that. And yeah, I guess it was kind of like a happy ending in a sense, but again, I feel like it almost would have been better if, you know, the Ash people had won, and then kind of Quaritch, jumps at the end. You know that he's not dead. You know he's coming back again. There's no way that they're just going to kill him off like that. Like the whole main plot point of this has been one giant battle at the end between him and Jake. So eventually that's going to happen. Now it would have been better, again, I think, if Jake's side had lost this time around. The fire people are winning, and then eventually, you know, the original people like Natiri and Jake and so on, like that clan, ends up teaming up with what I believe is probably going to happen, Wind. Because we've had the Earth from the first movie, we've had water in the second movie. Now we've been introduced to kind of like an evil side of things with Varang and her Ash people. And her trying to be like control fire and so on and so forth, right? Um, and yeah, I feel like Wind is just the next thing that's going to be coming. And I feel like Jake's going to have them on his side because Wind can take out fire, Wind can take out air and earth. So that's going to be a huge. Sorry. wind can take out, I said air and earth, water, fire, and earth. It can destroy all three of those things. Wind, or air, I guess, would be as far as the elements go, right? Earth, air, wind, and earth, water, fire, air, right? Is that how that goes? I believe so. But anyway, yeah, that's just all speculation, I guess. I guess we'll see where they want to take this movie. But I would think that would be the direction they're going, seeing as they kind of gone through all other three elements. It would make a little bit more sense. What else can I say? I guess at the end of the movie, it was the Tasong, or Tazongs that ended up coming and saving the day and taking out all of the ships and stuff before they could even round up the Tokun in order to, extract whatever they were extracting from them. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's worth a lot of money, and that's all that Scoresby cared about. So again, there was kind of like the battle, obviously between, the clans, and then Jake and Quaritch, and then obviously the Tokun and Scoresby. But again, I felt like it was kind of being dragged in too many different directions at some point, and the battle sequences were good. Like, the graphics still amazing in these movies. 3D, seeing it in D-Box was worth it. But yeah, it just felt a little stale to me, because they're kind of just repeating the same story again and just adding new characters, and that was a little bit unfortunate, seeing as how good the second movie was. Not to say that I didn't still enjoy it. Like, I feel like a kid again going back in the theater to see this movie, because to me it just brings out like nostalgia for me a little bit, because 2009, when the first movie came out, was when the 3D technology switched from the old red and blue glasses to the glasses we have now with like the real 3D technology. So yeah, now sometimes I almost look back and say that the red and blue glasses were almost better for certain movies, but I feel like with the 3D now, it's kind of like layered, like, like you have your character and then you have like the land behind it and so on and so forth. I never really find that I'm like, there isn't too many movies anymore that are in 3D that I'm like, whoa, that looks like it's jumping out of the screen to me sometimes. But yeah, this might be aging myself a little bit, but like Spy Kids 3D, that was probably one of the greatest 3D movies of all time. And I don't think anything can top it, really. But yeah, I will say there were some lulls in this movie for sure, where there wasn't really much happening, and it felt a little political and religious. But I guess that's kind of where this movie was going, really, with all of the storylines kind of slowly trying to connect together again. So it makes sense, but a lot of this movie kind of felt like a filler movie almost, leading up into the next one. So we'll see where they go. I don't know. I'm excited anyway to see where this story decides to take, or I guess form, shape, sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like there's definitely going to be a bigger battle in the next movie for sure. As we know, because everybody's still alive. Nobody really died in this movie that was like of huge importance. So there's still a lot of people that can build an army again. And I feel like eventually it's going to lead to Quaritch siding with the Na'vi and maybe taking on the general. That's kind of where I think this might lead, but I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what the fourth movie brings. It's not going to be out until 2029, and then the fifth movie, 2031, so I'll be 38 by the time these movies come out. But yeah, 7 out of 10 for this one, if I didn't already say that, and I will see you guys in the next review. Bye-bye for now.